Hello, Susan Corbett, Custom Machine Quilter. Today we're going to look at this throw. It's a lap quilt that is a panel and two borders. That's all there is to it. So it's mainly an overall, but with some custom touches. So it's not like a pantograph where you've got rows and rows of things. This is a directional quilt. So I've started at the bottom of the quilt and all these leaves are going up. I'm not able to quilt this all in one continuous line, which doesn't bother me in the least. It's not super fast, but I think it'll be well worth it. So I got with the client and we auditioned a bunch of threads and we ended up with gray, which I wasn't expecting, but sometimes that happens. So I've used, I tried to use all one color thread and it just didn't quite work out that way. So it's two different shades of gray thread, gray glide. Okay, yeah, I loaded the quilt sideways so that I've got more area to cover on the long arm at once. This just makes them, I think it makes it go faster. I can see the whole board this way. So I took off quilting a whole bunch of holly as much as I could, and then advanced the quilt some and began quilting the panel. And then I could quilt some more of the holly, and that's how this came together. Now, the tricky part with quilting a panel, there are no seams in it, so it's very, very stretchy. It's easy to get it out of square. So, although I didn't record this part, I had it full of pins, big, long, straight pins. Just there temporarily. I could have basted, but I don't like to baste. I don't want to have to put in any quilting that I'm going to have to rip out later. All right, so the basis for this is I start with 3 berries or more, but usually 3. And then holly is just a bunch of arcs. So I just arc all the way out to the end, and then arc back in, and then keep on going. To get around this quilt, as I say, I started with the berries and then added some holly, and then to get from one place to another, I've utilized a loop meander, and some other, one other type of greenery. And I got the idea for that in the print. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a long rounded edge leaf in there, which is a nice foil, a good contrast with all these pointy holly leaves. And then I also added curls and, other little flourishes, just to give it some more depth, more things going on than just the holly. Because I ended up with all kinds of little weird shapes, and it was nice to have some backup fillers to put in there. It didn't stop me from having to tie off and start over again someplace else, but those things helped a whole lot. I did almost no ditch quilting in this quilt except around that light colored frame and that light colored border in between the holly print and the center panel. That was how I ended up choosing 2 colors of gray, because the one I'm using here to quilt the holly in just looked a little bit too dark in that light border, so I picked a lighter one that would go in there. And I just did a straight line design in that border because I thought that would be good contrast. And it went really quickly because I freehanded it. I did not use a ruler. And we'll see more of that later on in the video. Now here, see, the great thing about leaves in general that I love is that you can fit them to any shape you have. And I've looked at holly and it grows in all kinds of weird ways. So here it's, bent and curved over. I don't worry about having the same number of arcs on each side. It's holly, like any leaf, is extremely forgiving. And one last facet of this meander that I think is really important, it is to me anyway, is to vary the size of the leaves. They're, I guess, mostly all the same size, but in some places there are some really large ones and then some little bitty ones. I just think that adds a lot more interest, and I like variety. Plus, you'll need the smaller ones to fill up your smaller spaces. It just makes it a lot more interesting. So that's nice. I like how puffy this whole thing is looking because of the batting choice. I saved my scraps of wool and just had a few pieces that went together really well in this quilt. I sew them together with a zigzag, and then, because see, look at the great dimension this leaves us with. It's going to be a nice, soft, wonderful throw that the recipient is going to love. And the center panel is outlined, not very heavily. And in a lot of places, you can't really see it, which is one of the great things about this color thread. So I love the way it turned out. I think it's going to make that woman really happy. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.